Yeah, I'll see if we can do that. But let's work on getting it up, and I'll see if we can get a commercial, online, for the day of the money bomb. Okay. But I got to go now. I'm at this event. But yeah, but don't waste the weekend. We got to promote it this weekend. Okay. All right. Bye. Okay. Bye. Bye. Okay.
Candidate for U.S. Senate, Peter Schiff.
We're going to start with the video that the powers that be at the Republican convention didn't want the delegates to see, so take a look. Well, I suppose once again that video is not going to be seen. I don't understand the problems with it. Anyway, if anybody wants to see that video, it is on the Schiff for Senate website. Anyway, I guess I'll have to tell the story myself. Anyway, I'm running for the United States Senate, and what this video was going to show was I spent years and years as a private citizen warning about the economic crisis that our nation was about to find itself in. And unfortunately, the real economic crisis is not in our past, it is in our future. And unfortunately, the government is doing everything that I forecast they would do as a result of a crisis that they themselves created. In other words, the government is throwing gasoline on a fire that it lit. And in the process, it is redefining the very fabric of our nation. The government is now transforming the American economy from a free enterprise economy or something close to that, where decisions are made in the market and resources are allocated based on economic reasons, to essentially planned economy where those resources are allocated based on political considerations. We have some severe structural problems that underlie the American economy, and they're the result of bad policies under Democrats and Republicans. Our economy is fundamentally flawed because of government regulation and government subsidies and government mandates that have turned us into a nation of consumers where we spend money that we don't have, we borrow it from the rest of the world, and we buy products that we did not make. And as a result, our economy is a disaster waiting to happen. And something needs to be done about it before it's too late to do anything. And the reason that I'm running for the United States Senate is I want to take that gas can away from our politicians before they completely destroy what's left of this economy. We need to understand that it's not an absence of government that led to these problems, but an excess of government. It wasn't the free market that gave us a housing bubble. It wasn't the free market that produced the financial crisis. Government did that. Government policy did that. The reason that I was able to foresee the problems in such accurate detail was because I understood this. It's not because I was so much smarter, but because I understood the damage that the government was doing to the economy. And I also understand that they're doing more damage now. The politicians are trying to claim that the recession is over, that the stimulus is working. It's not working. The stimulus is doing more damage. Government stimulus is why the economy is so sick in the first place. The stimulus didn't start with Obama. It started with Bush. It started in 2001 when we tried to stimulate our way out of the recession that resulted from the bursting of the tech bubble. We had monetary stimulus. We brought interest rates down to 1%. We had fiscal stimulus. And the result of that stimulus was a housing bubble. And when the stimulus wore off, we had the recession of 2008. You got to think of government stimulus like alcohol. And when you drink alcohol, initially you feel pretty good. But then you do some stupid things, and then the following morning you don't feel so good. And it occurs to you, I can't believe I did such stupid things. People bought .com stocks that had no earnings and no revenue because they were drunk on government stimulus. People bought houses they couldn't afford, and people loaned money to people to buy houses they couldn't afford when they were drunk on government stimulus. The problem is, look what we're doing now. We are adopting a failed ideology that has failed in every country it's ever been tried. because we're drunk on government stimulus. And the government bubble that we are inflating right now is bigger than the tech bubble, is bigger than the housing bubble. We have an opportunity now to elect a Republican to the United States Senate. But you know what? There are plenty of Republicans in the Senate right now, and most of them are part of the problem. So just electing Republicans isn't enough. We have to elect somebody that understands what the principles that the Republican Party stands for means. And we can't elect somebody who's going to check those principles at the door the minute they get elected. Because the problem is, most people want to be in the Senate, and so they tell you what you want to hear. And they know what Republicans want to hear, so they tell it to us. But the minute they get elected, what they're really concerned about is perpetuating their own career. And to do that, they have to abandon those principles, even if they ever held them in the first place. Well, that's not going to happen with me. I'm going to the United States Senate for one reason and one reason only. I'm going to do what the elected officials can't do. I'm going to do what's right for the country. I don't care how unpopular it might be with the special interest groups that benefit from government. But we need to slash the size of our government. The government is spending almost $4 trillion a year. That's more than twice what it spent 10 years ago. We can't survive that. The country can't possibly survive that kind of government. In order to sustain that government, $4 trillion has to be sucked out of the economy. That's $4 trillion that we can't invest, that we can't use that to provide the products and the services that people need and the jobs that they need. All those resources are going to Washington, so we have to put a stop to it. And that means having the guts to vote to abolish government programs and regulations and agencies and departments that we can't afford and that we never needed in the first place. You know, we have dug ourselves into a gigantic hole. And if we keep digging, you know, there is going to be no way out. You know, they're telling us that the economy is improving. It's not. All we've done is borrow and spend more money. We are in a deeper ditch now than we were before the stimulus. And we're about to roll over again. All we did is we borrowed more money from China and Japan and Saudi Arabia, and we bought more cars, we bought more stuff. That is how we got into this mess. The only way out is to produce, is to invest, is to save, is to work hard. But we can't do any of that if the government is standing in our way. No one is going to save any money when interest rates are zero. Nobody is going to invest. No businesses are going to make the investments necessary to grow this economy with what's going on in Washington. In fact, everybody is wondering, we need more credit, as if credit can just come out of thin air. Credit comes from savings. And if the government is borrowing all the savings, there's nothing left. And if nobody's saving, the only way the government is spending is from a printing press. And what I'm afraid is if we don't do something and do something quick, they're going to use that printing press, and we're going to have an inflationary depression unlike anything anybody in this country has ever experienced. And my campaign is a real grassroots campaign. You know, there are more than 25,000 people who have donated to my campaign. I've had volunteers who have made better than 70,000 phone calls to registered Republicans in the last week and a half. I've got all of the Tea Parties in the state of Connecticut behind me and all the grassroots organizations, despite the fact that I have stepped on every third rail of politics, yet I still have people's support. People are actually fed up telling people what they want to hear to win their votes. I'm telling people what they have to hear. And hopefully I'll earn their votes and earn their respect and be able to spend 6 years of my life, and you know, people talk about term limits. I only want one term. I figure if I can't help bring about the change that's needed in 6 years, it's never going to happen. It'll be too late. We can't afford 6 more years of this. The government will be spending, $8 trillion. There'll be nothing left in 6 more years of this. And if I can achieve the results in 6 years, then there's no reason to stay there. I can go back to the private sector. Because really, that's where true Republicans belong. Republicans want to be part of the real economy, creating wealth, not part of the government destroying it. And the problem is the government is now so destructive that somebody's got to go there and take that power away.